Last summer, I rented a tiny cottage near the woods. I was 32 and trying to get back on my feet as a freelance illustrator. The place was quiet, which I thought would be good for inspiration. But maybe it was too quiet. One humid night, I sat by the window. The trees rustled outside. At first, I thought I imagined something moving. I squinted into the darkness and saw a boy. He looked about 10, and he had moth-like features. His big eyes stared at me, and there were thin wings folded behind him. He shifted from foot to foot, almost nervous. "Are you lost?" I asked, but he just stared. My heart raced. Something felt wrong. I felt uneasy as I watched him. I didn't know what to make of it. A few days later, I was buried in my sketches when I noticed him again. He was back. This time, he peered through the window. I felt a chill run down my spine. I waved him off, thinking he would leave, but he didn't move. My curiosity tugged at me, but I still felt a knot of fear. Something about him felt familiar, like I should know him. But I didn't. I couldn't understand why I felt drawn to him. As the nights passed, that feeling turned into unease. Whispers started on the fourth night. They were soft at first, like the night breeze, but I could sense they were too close for comfort. I lay awake, every creak of the cottage amplifying my fears. I wondered what the boy wanted. Was he just trying to talk? Or was there something darker behind his presence? The boy returned each night. Strange things happened then. My furniture felt like it shifted when I wasn't looking. The air grew heavy and my anxiety increased as the sun set. Each night I dreaded the darkness. I tried to ignore him, but he always came back. My skin crawled whenever I sensed movement at the edge of my vision. I heard the faintest scratch against the window. Was it him again? Then came the last encounter. He stood there once more, but this time was different. He finally spoke. "Do you see them?" I leaned in, heart pounding. Before I could answer, the room froze. I felt an overwhelming pressure around me. I turned to see what he looked at, but there was nothing there. The silence fell heavy. My mind raced. Maybe it was all in my head. But as I looked back at him, I felt like he had shown me something I wasn't ready for. What did he mean? What did he see? That was my last encounter with the boy. I left the cottage shortly after. I never went back. Even now, I wonder about that strange child. What was he? What did I feel that night? The whispers still echo in my mind. I can't shake that sense of urgency. I wish I knew what it all meant, but I'm not sure I want to find out. The moment I left the cottage, relief washed over me like a wave. I drove back to the city, trying to forget those eerie nights. The boy's big eyes haunted me, but I forced myself to focus on my work and regain some semblance of normalcy. Weeks passed, and I threw myself into illustrations. I filled my sketchbook with vibrant colors and scenes of bustling city life, but my inspiration flickered. Every time I opened my window, I half expected to see him lingering in the shadows. I shook the thoughts away. I had escaped, hadn't I? One evening, I decided to visit a local art gallery for a change of scenery. It felt good to be around people. As I moved through the gallery, something caught my eye. A painting stood out, vivid and unsettling, depicting a dark forest with a single pale boy standing at the edge, wings stretching wide. The resemblance struck me. My stomach twisted. I approached the piece, feeling an odd pull. As I examined it, I noticed the hauntingly wide eyes of the boy in the painting, and the way he seemed to watch me. I turned away, discomfort rising in my chest. But something nagged at me. The artist's name was familiar. I pulled out my phone and searched for it. A gallery show just a week earlier had been held by a local artist named Ginny Cole. I scrolled through her portfolio and gasped. There it was, 2 other paintings of the very same boy with moth-like features. Each piece was more disturbing than the last, as if he watched the world from another realm. Curiosity pulled me in again, but so did dread. Who was this artist? Why did she paint him? I remembered the whispers. The boy in the forest felt like a warning, but what was he warning me of? That night, I struggled to sleep. The whispers returned, echoing softly in the corners of my mind. I thought about reaching out to Ginny. Maybe she could shed light on what I had experienced. But deep down, I feared what I might uncover. I decided to visit her studio the next day. Walking there, my heart pounded in my chest. Could this be the connection I needed, or would I open a door I wasn't ready to confront? As I arrived, I hesitated at the entrance. Maybe I should turn back. But before I could lose my nerve, I stepped inside. The air felt different, charged with energy. That's when I saw it. Hanging on the wall, almost hidden, was a sketch of the boy. A faint glow surrounded it, like he was waiting for me. I felt my breath catch. "Can I help you?" A voice startled me. I turned to find Ginny standing there with an eyebrow raised, curiosity dancing in her eyes. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words twisted in my throat. Instead, I gestured towards the sketch. "Do you know him?" Her expression changed. "Do you see them?" Everything inside me froze. I had walked right into the shadows again. Just when I thought I had escaped, I realized I was only beginning to uncover the truth. Ginny's question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. I swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. Did I see them? The whispers echoed in my mind, tugging at the edges of my thoughts. It wasn't just the boy in the sketch haunting me. It felt as if shadows had seeped into my reality. I mean the boy in the sketch," I stammered, trying to clear the fog in my head. "He looks familiar." Ginny's eyes narrowed, as if she could peel back layers I didn't even know existed. "He's more than familiar. There's something different about you." I took a step back, feeling exposed. "What do you mean by that?" She studied me for a moment longer, before replying. "People don't usually see him. Not clearly. Most just feel a tug of fear." A chill ran down my spine. Was this fear I felt a part of something deeper? I cautiously asked, "What do you know about him?" Ginny took a breath, as if preparing to share a secret. "He's a muse, a spirit of the forest. He appears in dreams, pulling people toward darker truths." Darkness crept into the edges of my vision. "What truths?" "Ask yourself what you fear most," she replied. "Those whispers you hear, they come from him." I felt my heart race. I needed to escape the studio, but the door felt miles away. "I need to go," I murmured, barely finding my voice. As I turned, Ginny's tone shifted. "If you leave, he will follow. You can't just forget him." Her words gripped me like a vice. I took a shaky step, but something prevented me from moving forward. "What does he want from me?" I whispered. "I can't say for certain, but he's drawn to those with artist souls. You may not want this connection, but it's already made," she replied, her voice a mix of empathy and warning. Rattled, I glanced back at the sketch. The boy's eyes seemed to twinkle with a knowing light, as if he understood my turmoil. I didn't want to confront this, yet a part of me felt drawn to him, the way he was drawn to my fear. Before I could think twice, I raced for the door. A sudden gust of wind blew through the studio, slamming it shut behind me. Panic surged through my veins. I fumbled with the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Then I heard it. A soft, whispering voice, calling my name from somewhere deep in the shadows of the room. My heart thundered as I turned back to face Ginny, whose eyes locked onto something just behind me. "I told you," she said, voice trembling. "He doesn't let go easily." That's when I saw it. A flicker of movement in the corner. The boy with the wide eyes stood there, just behind Ginny, waiting. "Who are you?" I shouted, desperate and terrified. His expression didn't change, but I felt something sharp clawing at the edges of my mind. Shadows lengthened around me, engulfing the room. I was trapped, and whatever truth this boy held was closing in fast. The boy's eyes bored into me, void of color yet teeming with an ancient knowing. I couldn't look away, despite the part of my mind that screamed for me to run. The room pulsed with something unnameable, a thick tension that pressed against my chest. "Stay away from me!" I shouted again, my voice cracking. But it was too late. The whisper grew louder, reverberating off the walls, twisting around us like angry tendrils of smoke. Ginny stepped backward, her fear palpable. "He needs you," she said, glancing nervously between us. "But you can't let him in." "Why not?" I asked, voice trembling. "Because once you acknowledge him, once you talk to him," she paused, swallowing hard, "you invite him into your life." The boy took a slow step forward, the air thickening with his movement. My instincts screamed, and I instinctively pressed against the door, desperate to pry it open. But it was still stuck. The whispers morphed into a chorus, weaving in and out of my consciousness. "Do you hear that?" I asked Ginny, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, eyes wide. "He's trying to teach you, to show you what he knows." What he knows? My heart raced, torn between fear and an insatiable curiosity. "What does he want to show me?" The boy tilted his head, as if pondering my question. Shadows flickered around him, forming shapes that danced and writhed. It felt like they were alive, pulling at me with unseen force. I swallowed hard, torn between wanting to flee and wanting to step closer. "Your darkest truth," Ginny interjected, her voice laced with urgency. "It's not just art he seeks. It's the truth hiding in your heart." "What does that even mean?" I yelled, my patience dimming. The boy stepped closer, and I felt a chill wash over me. His mouth opened, and finally, he spoke. "You're afraid of what you could create?" His voice was soft but powerful, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to shake off the feeling, but a part of me resonated with his words. Was that my truth? My creative struggles? The fear of never being enough, of failing? "No!" I cried. "Leave me alone!" The shadows swirled wildly, becoming louder, more chaotic. "Once he takes up residence in your heart, his whispers won't stop," Ginny warned. "You need to fight back." I closed my eyes, trying to block him out. The pressure built, an overwhelming sensation threatening to pull me under. "Get out of my head!" I shouted, my voice breaking through the cacophony. When I opened my eyes again, the boy had vanished, but the shadows lingered, swirling angrily around the room. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted, yet panic tightened my chest. "Where did he go?" I asked, my breath coming in short gasps. Ginny stepped forward, concern etched on her face. "He's waiting, to see if you'll stand against him." A pulse of determination surged through me. I wouldn't let him claim me. I took a deep breath. "I'll fight him," I declared, my voice steadier than I felt. The shadows hesitated for a moment, then surged forward, demanding my attention yet again. I realized I couldn't just muster my strength. I needed a plan. As I looked around the studio, my eyes landed on the sketchpad. "But how?" I whispered to myself. That's when I noticed it, the words scribbled in the margin of a past drawing. "He is the truth you fear. Face it to escape him." Suddenly, the whispers crashed back, drowning my thoughts in a tide of chaos. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The shadows quaked, pulsing with an urgency that made my skin crawl. Something told me that my battle was only beginning, and if I wanted to win, I had to turn to that boy again. I stood in the middle of the studio, heart racing as the shadows roiled around me. The whispers were like a storm, drowning out my thoughts, trying to drag me under. I had to do something. I reached for the sketchpad, my fingers trembling as they brushed over the words I had seen earlier. Face it to escape him. What did that even mean? I didn't know what truth I was supposed to face, and time was running out. "Ginny," I said, pulling myself from the brink of panic. "What does he want from me?" Her brow furrowed. "It's not a question of what he wants. It's about what you're willing to confront." I glanced around the room, desperate for clarity. I needed to discover the answer for myself, even though every instinct urged me to flee. The whites of the walls felt suffocating. Even the air seemed to twist into a dark form, ready to swallow me whole. "I can't keep struggling like this," I admitted, voice shaking. "He's right. I am afraid of what I could create." The moment the words spilled out, the shadows paused. A hush fell over the room, creating an eerie contrast to the chaos I had felt moments before. It felt like the weight of the truth had hit me all at once. "What do I need to face?" I asked, barely whispering the question. The shadows stirred, swirling as if listening, and I closed my eyes. I couldn't fight them. Maybe I needed to step back and let the fear rise, let it swirl around me and wash over me until I understood. As I opened my mind to the thoughts that haunted me, my creative struggles, the empty canvas always looming, I felt something shift. The shadows began to retract, pulling back as though my acknowledgement had stifled their chaotic strength. "Keep going," Ginny urged gently. "Trust yourself." With every moment of courage I summoned, another piece of fear unraveled. I could feel it. The weight of expectations, the fear of rejection, the voice in my head telling me I'd never create anything worthy. It was all there. My truth. Suddenly, a chill spread through the air, and the boy appeared before me again. This time, I didn't flinch. Instead, I held his gaze. "What do you want?" I asked. He cocked his head, as if assessing me. "To know you can. To know you will create. That you're ready to face what you hide from the light." The shadows began to flicker and pulse. "What if I fail?" I asked, my voice stronger now. "What if I fall short, become nothing?" The boy stepped closer, his lips curling into a ghost of a smile. "Then you'll learn. Create anyway." His words echoed in my mind, and something inside me ignited. I blinked, realizing that the shadows were no longer threatening me. They had thinned out, revealing the hints of untapped inspiration scattered around the room, unfinished sketches, half-formed ideas. But just then, a sudden jolt of energy coursed through the air. My heart lurched as I heard footsteps behind me, heavy and deliberate. I spun around, and dread coiled in my stomach. Someone was in the house. I barely had time to react. The footsteps grew louder, echoing in the cavernous studio. My breath hitched in my throat. I glanced at Ginny, but she was frozen, eyes wide like she was seeing a ghost. "Stay here," I whispered, even though I knew it was pointless. I wasn't sure if I was protecting her or trying to convince myself. I stepped towards the doorway, heart pounding like a war drum. The noise pushed me on, a mix of dread and curiosity propelling me forward. The hallway was dark, shadows wrapping around every corner, stalking me as I crept toward the source of the sound. Then, as I approached the staircase, the unease in my stomach intensified. I inched closer, scanning the dim light for a shape, a glimpse of whoever, or whatever, was lurking. A hand clasped my shoulder from behind, and I nearly yelped. I whirled around to find Ginny right in my space, her eyes frantic. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "I heard something," I replied, my voice breaking. "There's someone in the house." Before she could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows at the end of the hallway. Tall and thin, with a pale complexion that gleamed under the scant light. I couldn't see his face at first, just the outline of messy hair and the sharp angles of his jaw. "Who are you?" I called out, trying to muster confidence despite the quaver in my voice. "Lucian," he said, his voice low and melodic, almost soothing in its calmness. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He stepped closer, and I caught a glimpse of his eyes, wide, dark, and strangely expressive, like they could see right through me. "What do you want?" I managed, alarm creeping back in. "I came to talk," he replied. A hint of a smile played on his lips, revealing uneven teeth that made my pulse quicken. There was a familiarity in his manner that made my skin prickle, as though I had seen him somewhere before. Talk about what? I shot back, keeping my distance. I was on high alert, ready to bolt back into the studio if needed. The shadows, he said, and my stomach dropped. He stepped into the flickering light, revealing a face that was oddly moth-like. His features were soft and warped, giving him an almost ethereal presence. It was both beautiful and unsettling. I know why they surround you, he continued, his gaze unyielding. They are drawn to your fear, your hesitation, but you can control them if you understand what they mean. I glanced at Ginny, who had fallen silent, observing the stranger with unease. What are you talking about? How do you know about the shadows? I've been watching you, he admitted, an intensity sparking in his eyes. I can help you harness their power. My skin prickled with a mix of fear and intrigue. Why would you help me? What's in it for you? His smile faded, replaced by something more serious. You don't understand. They're feeding on your doubts. If you let them in without confronting your truth, they'll grow stronger than you can handle. Realization hit me hard, just like the whispers I had heard before. What's the truth I need to face? As I asked, I felt the shadows skitter around my feet, tightening their grip like a vice. Everything you've avoided, Lucian said. Then, with a wicked glint in his eye, he stepped closer. And it's time for you to face it. Right now. Panic flooded my system. What do you mean? Before he could answer, the air thickened, and that familiar chill wrapped around me like a storm. I stumbled back, desperately searching for an escape, but there was nowhere to run. Face it, Lucian urged, raising a hand as if to calm me. But his intent felt entirely different. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness closed in, my mind spiraling. There was no sound, no light, just a blanket of black that felt suffocating. Panic clawed at my chest. I must have squeezed my eyes shut, but when I opened them again, my surroundings shifted. I wasn't in the hallway anymore. Thick fog curled around me, swirling like restless ghosts. I stood on a cobblestone path lined with dead trees, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for something just out of grasp. I shivered, the chill sinking into my bones. Where am I? I murmured, almost to myself. Lucian's voice echoed somewhere in the distance, yet the words were indistinguishable, like whispers of a dying breeze. Suddenly, I heard Ginny's voice, faint and strained. Luna! The sound cut through the fog, pulling me toward it. I started down the path, anxiety fueling every hurried step. Ginny! I yelled, but my voice felt lost, swallowed by the thick mist. Help! She cried again, more desperate this time. The urgency propelled me forward. I had to find her. Then I spotted a flicker of light ahead, faint and flickering like a candle caught in the wind. As I approached, the fog receded, revealing a clearing. Ginny stood by a small fire, her features pale against the glow, fear etched across her face. Luna, thank goodness, she exclaimed, relief washing over her. I was so scared. I thought I lost you. What happened? I asked, breathless. 1 minute we were in the studio, and now we're in the shadows, she completed my thought, her eyes darting around nervously. Lucian, he did this, didn't he? I don't know. I glanced back at the dark edges of the clearing. He said I needed to face something I've been avoiding. I wish he didn't bring us here. We need to leave. No, wait. My instincts kicked in, a weight of realization pulling at my gut. Maybe this is what he meant. We can't run from it. Ginny looked unconvinced. What if he finds us? What if the shadows come for us? I met her gaze, firm but trembling. We can have power over them. We just have to understand. Just then, the fog thickened again, creeping toward us like a living thing. Shadows began to slither from the edges, flickering in and out of the firelight. I felt the tendrils brush against my ankles, cold and whispering, as if they knew my fears. What do you want? I called out, voice steadier than I felt. "I'm not afraid!" But the shadows surged closer. My heart raced, a mix of dread and exhilaration filling me. I could sense their hunger, their need to feed on my uncertainty. "Luna!" Ginny's frightened voice broke through the haze, but I stayed focused. I had to confront this. And then, through the shroud, I saw a memory, shimmering and vivid. It was me at the art show, feeling vulnerable and exposed, standing at the edge of a canvas that depicted my failures. The shadows writhed violently, reacting to the memory. "Face it," they hissed in unison. Before I could process what it meant, Lucian's face loomed out of the fog, eyes bright and intense. "Embrace it, and you'll gain control." As he faded back into the mist, I felt a rush of determination. I needed to hold my ground now. "I accept it," I shouted, even as the shadows closed in. In that moment, I felt a strange warmth flaring within me, a flicker of power igniting. But I also knew this was just the beginning. The warmth inside me grew, lighting a path through the darkness. It was as if a fire had ignited in my chest. I could feel the shadows hesitate, their writhing bodies faltering. Ginny stood beside me, eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. But then everything shifted again. A low rumble echoed through the clearing, and the ground beneath us trembled. The shadows, emboldened, surged forward, swirling around my legs like a pack of wolves. "You think you can control us?" they hissed, their voices a chorus that sent ice through my veins. "I can," I shouted back, trying to sound confident even as my heart raced. I felt Ginny's hand grip my arm tightly, but I didn't look at her. I concentrated on the warmth growing inside me, forcing it to expand outward. Suddenly, the shadows fell back, as if recoiling from my determination. "Face your truth!" they screamed, and with that, images crashed into my mind. I glimpsed my own reflection, distorted and twisted in a cracked mirror, a girl burdened by mistakes and doubts. The pain of my insecurities washed over me, but I refused to let it swallow me whole. "I'm not afraid of what I see," I yelled, and with that declaration, a bright light erupted from my core, illuminating the fog around us. "Luna, look!" Ginny pointed toward the edge of the clearing, where the shadows seemed to recoil further. I forced myself to focus. The light surged, bold and unwavering, and I realized I had a choice to make: to let my light sink into the darkness, or to stand firm and let it drive the shadows away. "Stay close," I urged Ginny, feeling a thrill of power rush through me as I stepped toward the shadows. They writhed, now less intimidating, and I pressed on. "You don't control me." The shadows shrieked, a terrifying sound blending fear and rage, but I didn't falter. I could see beyond them now, the edges of true darkness peeking through, gnawing at the edges of my mind. Then everything went silent when I noticed a figure emerging from the fog, a tall silhouette with moth-like features. It hovered just beyond the firelight, its wings shimmering eerily. My heart dropped. "What is that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Ginny gasped beside me. "Luna, we need to go. That thing is dangerous." But something within me urged me to stand firm. "Wait, it might help us," I said, though uncertainty gripped my stomach. The figure tilted its head, eyes glinting with an intelligence that felt unnatural. As I stared into its luminous gaze, I had the strangest feeling it held answers, or secrets I was meant to uncover. "Who are you?" I asked, hope lacing my voice. The shadows began to close in again, drawn to the strange creature. I felt my resolve wavering. Then the creature spoke, its voice like the rustling of leaves. "You've called upon me, Luna. Now it's time to make a choice." Panic hit me. I didn't know what to choose. Then I saw Ginny, fear spilling off her like an aura. I had to protect her, protect us both. "Tell me what to do," I shouted, desperation rising. And then I heard the whispers again, mingled with the shadows. "Embrace your truth, but beware of the path ahead." My choice teetered on the edge of revelation and fear, and the clearing began to dissolve around us. The shadows danced, eager to consume. "Luna!" Ginny cried, her voice snapping me back to the moment. I had to act fast. That's when I made my decision. I took a deep breath. I felt the light inside me pulsing, and with it, I shouted, "I choose to face the truth!" The warmth grew stronger, wrapping around me like a shield. The shadows halted, momentarily stunned. Ginny's grip tightened, but I could see her fear begin to shift into something else, curiosity perhaps. The moth-like figure stepped closer, its wings shimmering, catching the light. I realized it was waiting, gauging my resolve. "Keep the light going," it urged gently. "Let it guide you." I nodded, willing the warmth to grow brighter. The shadows hissed and shrieked around us, but they lost their once menacing power as the light pushed them back. I could see now. They were twisted reflections of my fears. Each form represented a doubt I harbored. "Why are you afraid?" the creature asked, its voice soothing despite the chaos surrounding us. I hesitated. Wasn't it obvious? Because I felt weak. Because I didn't believe in myself. Anguish hugged my heart like a vice. But I needed to say it, to confront the truth rather than hide from it. "I'm afraid of failing," I finally shouted over the din. The admission flew from my lips like a freeing breeze. As soon as the words left me, the shadows shrank back even further, screeching in agony. "Then let it go," the figure advised. "Replace it with trust." "Trust?" I repeated, looking at Ginny, who seemed more resolute. "I trust her." "Yes," the creature nodded, "and trust yourself." With a newfound determination, I affirmed, "I can't always succeed, but I can learn." A pulse of light shot from me, expanding in rays that pierced through the darkness like knives. The shadows writhed and then receded. I sensed victory, but an unsettling feeling remained. Suddenly, with a swift motion, the figure gestured toward the trees. "But there is more to confront." Before I could react, the clearing shifted again like sand beneath my feet. The ground trembled, and thorns erupted from the earth, cutting into the warmth I had summoned. Darkness swirled all around, suffocating my light. I had been too hasty. "Luna!" Ginny's voice snapped me back to the moment again. "Look out!" A surge of shadows charged at us, racing forward like a tidal wave. I could feel my heart thunder in my chest as panic gripped me. The moth-like figure was now behind me. "Focus! You control this!" it boomed, its voice unyielding. But I felt the shadows creeping up, snatching at my light. I took another breath, gathering every ounce of strength I had. "Together," I shouted, "we can fight." And then I felt it, another presence, something ancient and powerful. But as shadows rose, I realized what it meant. That's when I saw it. A hidden doorway unveiled where the shadows congregated, pulsing with a light of its own. Instinct urged me to enter, but I hesitated. Could it lead to salvation or doom? I felt torn as shadows rushed toward me, their whispers merging into a deafening cacophony of fears and doubts. The hidden doorway pulsed with an inviting light, almost taunting me, offering safety just out of reach. "Luna, we need to go," Ginny shouted, fear flickering in her eyes. But as the shadows erupted in their frenzy, I felt the moth-like figure settle behind me, its presence steadying in the turbulent storm of chaos. "You must make a choice," it reminded me, its voice resonating with ancient wisdom. "You can confront the darkness or succumb to it. Your truth awaits." Every shred of courage whispered to me to move toward the light, yet a sinking dread told me that entering the doorway might also lead to uncharted horrors. I focused on the whispers, trying to sort through their tangled requests and warning shouts. "What if I can't?" I called out, uncertainty clawing at the edges of my mind. "Then you will never truly be free," the figure replied, almost like a lullaby, as my skin prickled with the realization. I had to act. Taking one last look at Ginny, her features taut with concern, I saw her nod, urging me on, her eyes echoing hope. Perhaps we could face the darkness together, no matter where it led. "Together!" I shouted, seizing the moment. I raced toward the doorway, light radiating from my core as I felt Ginny right beside me. With a rush of adrenaline, I dove into the light, our surroundings dissolving as the air thickened. And with every step, shadows shrank back, revealing a vast canvas stretching infinitely before us, adorned with brilliant colors and shapes. The darkness was still present, writhing outside the edges where the brilliant hues met finality. But I felt the weight of my fears lifting. I could see past them now. This was where my creative spirit could flourish, where I could embrace every flaw and shortcoming within myself and translate them into something beautiful. But as the warmth of inspiration enveloped me, I noticed the boy, the moth-winged figure, still lingering at the edge of the canvas, watching intently. Despite my relief, unease trickled in. My heart gave a quickened beat. It felt like he held the keys to something vital, an understanding that had not yet fully formed. "What do you want?" I asked, feeling the shadows claw insistently behind me, even in this bright place. He remained still, eyes swirling with hidden depths. "You are awakening, Luna. The truth is raw and powerful, but it comes at a cost." A chill passed through me. "What cost?" I asked, already fearing the answer. I was finally confronting my truth, yet doubt still clawed at my insides. "Creation is born from pain and vulnerability," he intoned, his voice lilting like a soft breeze. "Face the depth of what you fear, and you will understand the gifts it brings. But know this, pushing through means never again turning back." Panic flared again, like a warning sound. What if I rejected it? What if I couldn't harness what I faced? "Luna!" Ginny called from where she stood, with shadows still pressing against the edges of this brilliant world. "We need to find a way to contain them before they drag us back." "I know," I replied, the whispers intensifying around us. The shadows throbbed like a living thing, aching to escape. "But I can't ignore him any longer. There's something here that I still need to learn." I turned back to the boy, searching for clarity in his features. "I want to create without fear," I said, my voice quiet, yet firm. "Show me how." A ripple cascaded across the canvas, sky blues and floral blossoms unfurling, which spoke of closeness, depth, and intimacy. But alongside that, dark undertones masked by the vibrant color. I felt the boy's energy surge, wrapping around me, as if aligning my heart's desire with the shadows rippling in the distance. "Only by embracing your pain can you bring forth your true self," he said. "You cannot shield yourself from the darker pieces of your existence." The shadows writhed, closer now, enveloping Ginny, who stood unwavering, drawing my strength forward. I could feel the anchors of uncertainty threaten to pull me back down, and I gritted my teeth. "I will not succumb," I yelled into the fray, the cinema of emotions surrounding me scattering paler like glass. I sensed my light expanding, creating a vibrant circle around us. Each hue, each brush of the shadow was a part of me, reclaiming pieces I had tucked away. I wouldn't shy away from what was unsettling anymore. The darkness shrieked, the shadows swirling in confusion, but I pressed on, more grounded within myself than before. My fear transformed into a brush, repainting darkness into hues of empowerment and understanding. But then something unthinkable happened. Amidst the shadows, hints of memory flickered. A childhood flash of ink stains and crumpled papers became vivid, reminders that had once disrupted my journey entirely, yet were part of the tapestry I had begun to weave anew. The pain was real, tangled with the struggle, but it was also the source of my creativity, the very spark I had hidden away in fear of not being enough. And the shadows dissolved in spiral light as realization struck. I no longer fought against the darkness. I embraced it. "Create, Luna," the boy urged again, with that ethereal smile. The whirl of shadows faded into strains of color, merging until they appeared no more, revealing the doorway to my potential and reason. And in an explosion of realization, the darkness made sense. My obstacles, the whispers, they existed to make me stronger. I felt the vibrant power surge within me, and at that moment, I understood. We would carry forward the hidden truths, the painful stories, weaving them into art, into life, because therein lay our strength. As everything fell silent and the canvas stretched infinitely before me, I smiled, ready to embark on the journey ahead. Would the boy watch over me still? Would I always be bound to shadows? I didn't know. The truth from that night remained, lingering in the depths of my mind, but perhaps it didn't matter. Every story needed a touch of mystery. All I knew was that I had found a new path, one where I remained free to create fully, and with every stroke of the brush, I'd face the whispers anew,